What's going on, guys? My name is Voss, and if you're new to the channel, thank you so much for stopping by. We are back at it today with another Porsche video, and the goal for today is to get that engine that sits right there behind the seats out of the car. I'm back with my good friend and mechanic, Josh, and as always, he runs Crafton Auto Care here. So if you're in the Dayton area or in Ohio and you need some work done, I would say check him out. He does some pretty much everything, right?
Yeah, everything that walks through the door we handle.
You can tell from the drone shots we took earlier. There's quite a few projects going on here, right?
Yeah.
You got the GTO, you got some other stuff.
Yeah.
What's going on here?
This is a 1998 Dodge 2500 van that's a factory camper conversion. It's the, as you can see on the side, the road trick. There's a huge following for them, and that inside, that is a complete camper. It's got bathroom, shower, kitchen, and this one's got a little over 200,000 miles on it. They've been everywhere in this thing, and I've rebuilt just about everything, but they keep adding little things on, and lights and this and that, and so we fix the water lines on it, all kinds of crazy stuff. So we pretty much do it all here. So
today, the plan is to get that engine out. You think it's gonna happen?
I am very hopeful that it's gonna happen. As long as nothing breaks or craziness, we should be there today.
Really, we got to get it in service mode. I think there was a couple more components for the supercharger that had to come out.
Yep.
And then the engine stays and the car lifts, and it should be out, right?
Yep.
Well, let's get to it. A little more investigating. We were trying to save some time from more stuff up top, but I think we've determined that the rest of this plastic's got to come out. These things have got to get disconnected, and then now after that, the engine as it is just stays and everything else comes up, right?
Yeah, so we're gonna disconnect all the fluid lines that are all of these lines and this line. These lines.
So all of this has got to come.
All of these have got to come off. We're going to take all of our hoses off, and then we're going to work on getting all the wiring disconnected out of the rear trunk, pull it, disconnect the computer, everything, and pull all the wiring harness through, set it on top of the engine, and then we'll quickly do our bell housing bolts, and we're hoping this thing's going to slide forward so we can drop it off. We'll just have to figure out.
Because this is mid-engine, that engine's gonna be stationary and the body's pretty much gonna lift up.
Right.
So,
yep.
Hopefully another couple hours and we make some significant progress.
Yeah.
2 hours later is how long it took to drain these gas lines, and now everything else down below is drained. Now we're working on getting the intake out, these manifolds out. Ooh, what was that? I don't know. Sounds pretty good. And then, fingers crossed, just a little bit more time afterwards, and this engine should be out.
Hopefully.
We're probably another couple hours in, you'd say?
Yeah.
And now, I mean, that is like, oh man, it is like just a couple more pins, I feel like, away from coming out. What's left, you think?
So We need to get the wiring harness pulled through, and then we'll be able to pull the intakes both up as an assembly with the fuel injectors and all. And then from there, a couple power steering lines, just double checking everything up front, and then bell housing bolts, motor mounts, and it's coming out.
Are you feeling pretty optimistic this coming out?
Yeah, a couple hours and we should have it dropping out, at least figuring out how to drop it out. This is that injector driver controller for the supercharger. It's basically a small computer box that we had done in a previous segment where we showed like the map sensor for the boost and vacuum and all that, the 3-wire GM standard map sensor. Well, we're pulling the wiring harness out, and one problem that you can run into when there's aftermarket stuff is you can see the wiring here. It is soldered together, but we need to get this wiring harness out, and I'm not trying to shove this box through this hole. So you're not going to be able to find a wiring diagram more than likely easily for this. So a good way to do this is trim about an inch away so that the color is still on the wire. So when we go to rewire it, there is absolutely no question what color wire went where. And now we know that these two wires are snipped and they obviously match up together. So pretty easy to figure that out going forward. So we got to discharge the AC system because the compressor is going to be on the engine when we drop it down. So we got to unbolt the lines, but to safely do that, we got to remove all the Freon inside the system. So that's what we're getting ready to do now. Both the high and low side ports are up here. Here's your low side and your high side. Easiest way to remember high and low side, it's kind of hard to tell. Low side is normally always the bigger line, high side is normally always the smaller line. But that's what we're doing, and now we'll let the machine do the rest.
Okay, it's been like a few more hours and we are, I want to say, extremely close to this engine being out. We have one more bell housing bolt and we are trying to come up with a plan. I don't know if you can, how well you can see it in there. We have invented a new tool because we can't seem to get this bolt out with the way the clearance and everything is. It has been very challenging. You can see my wrench in there. So hopefully this works.
Alright, so we got this last bell housing bolt that's been fighting us for a little bit. It is a weird 12-point bolt. So all of the other bell housing bolts look like this. A standard 6-point bolt, a couple inches long, no big deal, 16 millimeter. This one has got the very special Torx style sockets. And it requires a socket that looks like that. You know, kind of looks like a Torx, but it has 12
just
points.
This one bolt out of all the bolts?
Correct. That's the only bolt on the bell housing that had one of these special little Torx deals, and that's a 10 millimeter 12-point socket. So you don't have to buy a whole set, you know, like this. You just need that one that's missing here, the 10 millimeter. And,
so we pretty much we first tried to make a tool. You can tell we kind of welded up this just could not hold the torque that was required to get that out. So now we've got a few extensions on this wrench and seemed to do the trick, but I mean, what is that? That took 2 hours probably
to figure it out. Yeah. And yeah, that's a nightmare of a bolt if you don't have whatever special tool they have. And I will say that socket that I just showed you, that's a normal length socket. The one that we are using is a stubby length. So I would suggest if you're doing this on your own to get a stubby length socket and do it this way with a that chrome universal joint up there, which
I think this was the last thing from keeping us from this now engine coming out.
Yeah, that's the last thing. Now we're gonna pull this bolt out, then the engine mount, and I got one bell housing bolt up top just holding it in for safety, and that's it.
It's been probably another hour or so, and now we are actually officially ready to remove the engine, right?
Yes.
Let me tell you, why one bell housing bolt is different than the other ones, I don't know. Why there's no room for it, I don't know. But it's okay, we're past that now.
Yes.
So now the next step would be to get this engine out. The engine comes out from the bottom, which is not like, you know, not normal, but I guess pretty typical for Porsche and mid-engine.
Yep.
We've come up with a plan on how to get this engine out on the cheap if you are doing this at home or if you're cheap like I am. And it involves that, so I'll have Josh explain this through.
So basically, if you're doing it at home, you may not have a lift, and that's okay. You can get around that with jacks and jack stands. It complicates things. We're not doing it that way, so we don't have a great explanation for you on how to do it that way. If you happen to have a lift, here's how you do it. You get you a little dolly that has casters and just a standard square. We're using a junk radiator out of, I believe this is a Volkswagen, but
you could use
any
2x4s, you could use...
Yeah, any radiator will work for this, or just about anything else. 2x4s are great, you know, just about any kind of wood. And then I would suggest rubber blocks. Now, this may be something that you're like, where do I get rubber blocks from? Well, there are many places all over the country that do tire shavings. If you can find a place that does that, most of the time their scraps are free. They'll thankfully give you some of them. You could even go and cut a tire up and get you some nice strips of rubber to put down. And basically all that does is softens any kind of movement that'll be on here from, you know, the rubber touching it instead of wood. You know, you can still scratch things up with wood. So this is just being precautious so that we don't damage anything. And everything should go smoothly with this, in theory anyways. So
like, after like 20-ish, 15 to 20-ish hours, it is now time to rise the car and let the engine come out. I am so excited.
A few moments later.
I think it is now time to raise the car, and that engine should realistically be all good, right?
Should.
To come out. All right, let's see it. There you go. Okay, well.
The next day.
On the left side?
Yeah.
Yep.
On the side.
Is it a hose or something, or? There we go. Free?
It looks like it. Now it's just a matter of it staying
If you want me to press that
It should.
can, if you want to hold.
I've got my hands on this side.
Okay. Something so small, so hard to do. Would have been easier just to LS swap it. This guy's like, no, I gotta put Porsche back in it.
It's been a long last night and this morning, but this engine's finally out, and you can see some other things had to come out. So what all changed from our original plan into what we ended up having to do?
So our original plan was just separate engine and transmission, slide the engine forward, and then drop it down. Well, with the clutch and everything, and the flywheel and all that stuff, you know how thick all this stuff is. There was no way this was gonna clear this area right here where this beam is. And then
right here.
Yep, it was hitting right in here, and then we have this cable to deal with too. There was no way for that to drop out. So I ended up just pulling the clutch pressure plate, the flywheel, all of it, and did it in between the engine and transmission. and then it literally just fell out of its hole with a little bit of guidance. And you can see our cart, the engine's a little shaky on it.
If you need to make an at-home engine stand, you know, here it is. Bad radiator and some rubber.
Yep,
and
bad radiator
pallet.
and some rubber. And then we're gonna ratchet strap it on there so that it's nice and secure, and we can roll it around the shop, and then we'll put our engine stand on it, and we'll get it up off the ground and start tearing that engine down, see what's wrong with her.
All right, guys, that is gonna, well, there we go.
And that's why we ratchet strap it.
Well, that's gonna wrap up this video. If you enjoyed this, hit that like button. Make sure you check out Crafton Auto Care here in Dayton. And thank you for watching, and I will see you next video.